When you thought about being a parent, what kind of parent did you think you were going to be? What kind of parenting style did you think you were going to have? Did any of these thoughts even come to you? Or did you think parenting was going to be easy? Today we're talking about mindful parenting, cultivating connection and resilience within your child. But before we get to that, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to comment. So let's go ahead and get into it. So we're talking about mindful parenting. We talk about cultivating a connection, and we're talking about building that resilience within your child. Sometimes we don't know the full picture. Because when you look at your kid as an infant and a toddler, and they're just as happy-go-lucky and they're running around, how do you build those connections, those long life connections? Because regardless of the case, there's going to be a connection with your child because you're their parent. But what does that actually mean? So first one thing I want to look at is evaluating your past. And what I mean by evaluating your past is, let's look at the type of parent that your parents were. Or what type of parenting style did they have? Now, my mom was a hard-working young lady. And she did everything that she was supposed to do and that she could do to make sure that I had the life that I had. And I am very appreciative for all the opportunities that I had when I was a child. Now, I adopted some of her parenting style when it comes to making sure that my son has everything that he needs without question. To make sure that I work hard and get ahead to make sure that I can provide the lifestyle that I want him to have. Now, I was a spoiled child when I was younger. And my son, turns out, he's spoiled too. And those are one of the things, or a few of the things, that I kind of pulled from my mom's parenting style. Now, my mom didn't hover me or do anything that I would consider neglectful, but she was always at work. And that left my grandma and my auntie to do most of the raising and rearing when it came to my evolution or my growth as a child. And my grandma bestowed a lot of wisdom on me. And I can't recall all her lectures that she gave me, but the ones that stand out the most are the ones that I heard like in my 20s. Now, when I was a kid, she pretty much yelled at me and kept me on the straight and narrow. It was kind of one of them eras where you had to be in before the street lights. And I can tell you, when the street lights came on, I pushed the limit. Now, when you hear an old lady call your name from 20 houses down, from the door, not even the sidewalk, not the middle of the driveway, I mean from the door. Grandma had 13 kids, so she probably yelled at every last one of them. Now, when it came to me and she yelled, I was the fastest child on the block. I was zooming home like a lightning bolt because I didn't want to get in trouble. And she will always say the same thing. Didn't I tell you to be in before the street lights? And I'm like, well, the street light didn't come on. She's like, but you know it's dark outside. I tried every excuse in the book. But my grandma provided a level of structure for me when I was a kid. And she was my best friend. Not only was she my best friend, she was the authoritative person in the household. She kept me and all my cousins in line. Now, her kids, they didn't like it. So they voted. Because we used to all live in one house. But from there, I learned to pass on a lot of wisdom to my son. So from my grandma, I learned how to pass on a lot of wisdom. From my mom, I learned how to pass on integrity, work ethic, being able to get the things that you like and you want and that you desire, and being able to progress because she had ambition to go further, and I took on that same ambition. Now my auntie, she was tough. I mean, I love her to death. But she was tough, but she was like one of them cool aunties that you could just talk to anything about and it'd never get back to your mama. Like, she safeguarded all your secrets. And I loved her for that. Like, even to this day, we'll talk. And I just be rambling. And she'd just be listening. And then we just go back, trading stories and everything, catching up. Like, I love my auntie dearly. And she was one of the ones that, hey, she kept that warmth and that friendliness with me and her, where our relationship always remained open. So no matter what I was going through, no matter if I couldn't call or talk to anybody, I know I could always call and talk to her no matter what it is. And we've always maintained that connection. Every time I needed something, or I needed somebody to talk to, I know that I can call on my auntie and have those in-depth conversations and get some level of guidance. And it was the same thing with my grandmother. Up until, my 20s, my late 20s, I was able to have conversations with my grandmother, and we built a bond, a real in-depth connection just off of those conversations and sharing those stories and rapport. Now, my dad, on the other hand, we didn't start connecting till like later on, in like my late teens, early 20s, and we started connecting. We started to develop a relationship that was a little different from a father-son relationship. But even with him, I realized that every relationship that I had with each one of these people kind of gave me a level of wisdom, work ethic, integrity, structure. And when I came to my dad, I realized that me and him was one and the same and answered so many questions. Now, I bring all this full circle is because what I've learned in my past, I took into parenting my child. Now, I tried to be the authoritative figure when he was younger. He was acting up in school, being rambunctious, not listening to the teacher. And I tried to do all of that, and it didn't work out. So I had to try a different approach. And then that's where the growth and the connection came from. So as my son started to transition and be old, transition and grow, so he transitioned from grade to grade, and he grew and became older, I realized that like whooping, spankings and stuff like that, and over the top punishment was not working. Sometimes it took conversation to kind of get down to the root of what was wrong. And through these conversations, and when he would get in trouble, I would lecture him. He would get a lecture going to school, that was a 30-minute drive, and then he'll get a lecture coming home, that was a 30-minute drive, just so I could make sure that he understood the reason why either he was going on punishment or whatever the case is. And he'd be able to throw this stuff right back to me. Even in the scenarios where I feel like I'm in the wrong or I'm thinking sideways, he'd be like, so, well, remember what you told me when I was younger? I'd be like, man, I don't want to hear that. But it's good to know that it sunk in the same way it sunk in for me when I was younger. And I can appreciate those type of things because I'm passing on the knowledge to him. And by him being able to regurgitate it back to me, shows me that he was listening. And then it also keeps our relationship open. One of the things I've always told my son is that I would never lie to you. No matter what it is, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm always going to tell you the truth. And we have built this relationship of open communication. Now, don't get me wrong. I still embarrass my son from time to time when I ask him questions, about life, what's going on in school, when I ask him about, sex, and he just be like, Dad, I don't want to talk about sex. And I'm like, well, son, it's a part of life. It's going to happen. And I'd rather for us to be able to have open dialogue about it, because if something goes wrong or something is about to happen, I'd rather you be able to talk to me first before you just go out there and do it. Because if you're going to go do it, at least, man, let me make sure that you're going to do it safely, and you're going to do it within the right mindset. I don't want you to just go out there and some girl trick him, and then he ends up with a kid. Or he goes out there and he doesn't get tricked, and he just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna do this without any protection, and then he ends up with an STD, he ends up with a child, in any of those circumstances. So I want him to be a little bit more prepared when he go out there and start being with women, sexually and everything, and he's more aware and prepared of what he's getting himself into versus just jumping out there and it's a whirlwind and he's just gonna fall wherever he's gonna fall at. Now, the next thing you want to ask yourself is, what are you looking for to be a parent? Now, I know a lot of people don't look at it like, well, I don't want to know what I want to look for to be a parent. I barely know what I want to look for in a relationship. Now, I didn't know what kind of parent I wanted to be. I didn't know whether I wanted to be a very strict parent, or if I wanted to be a very fun parent, or somewhere in the middle. I didn't know. But one thing I did know is that I wanted to be in my son's life, and being in his life was way more important to me than trying to figure out the type of parent that I wanted to be. And I figured providing a warm bed and a roof over his head and a full refrigerator was acceptable, and it's not. There's a lot of things that I wish I would have done with my son that I didn't do at all. I wish I would have read to him more when he went to sleep. I wish I didn't put him in front of the TV as much as I did. I wish I would have had him focus more on educational things than non-educational things, like video games. I didn't really want him to play with video games. I didn't allow him or let him play with guns, little toy guns either, because I didn't want him to get the idea in his head that all guns are toys. And if he was to see a gun laying around, which I don't allow guns to be laid around anywhere, but if he was to see something like that, he wouldn't think that as a toy or anything. He would just leave it alone. And being, forefront about that type of education. So I really wish I would have did a little bit more educating things with him and put him in more programs when he was a kid, maybe like karate and everything, something he can develop and grow into. I kind of waited until he's a little bit later in life where he used to play the drums, and he tried out for karate, and he did a few other things as well. But as soon as he started them, just like all kids, he let it fall by the wayside. And when he let it fall by the wayside, I was kind of like, man, like he's not gonna want to do this no more. Now, granted, it's gonna save me money, and I'm all about saving money, but I kind of want him to engage into this program because I think it's gonna be beneficial for him. But sometimes it didn't take off the way that I wanted to, so I had to figure out, how I was gonna pursue these things where he would have more opportunities and more involvement in different clubs. So when he got to high school, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be very supportive of his dream. Whatever he wants to do, I'm gonna be very supportive. I'm gonna make sure that I get him all the things that he needs. So then I became a very supportive parent. So I went from like a very strict parent and do as I say to, a very kind of talkative parent, like let's talk and let's figure things out together, to a very supportive parent. And and all those kind of just rolled up into a nice little combination. But when he got to high school, I was just very supportive of him. He wanted to go into coding, so I bought him coding books, and he wanted to be a part of these programs. So I put him in the programs. I made sure that he got to all these events. He was in robotics and he's in chess clubs, so I made sure that I played chess with him. So it was a lot of things that when he got to high school that I wanted him to be part of, and a few things in middle school he was part of. So far, different programs that I wanted him in. I put him in a program almost every summer, just to make sure that he stays busy, just to make sure that he keeps his mind on the books, and he's just not sitting at home forgetting about what was happening. Like he was in math club, in his math program down at Wayne State, which was a great opportunity for him And then he went back and he ended up working for him, which ended up becoming one of his first jobs. So, I made sure that he, had all the same things or the same opportunities, even more opportunities at clubs than I had. So I wanted to make sure that I was being very, not protective, but being very, very supportive of him, so he was able to, achieve and excel a lot more than I did when I was his age. And I believe that through doing that, we built such a great connection through conversation, through events. He was in Boy Scouts. He did a number of things that I was there to support and guide him through. And we would have conversations afterwards just to get his perspective about it, just to get his understanding of the situation. And I can really appreciate those conversations that I had with him, because it gave me an idea of which way he wanted to go and what he wanted to do. And for me, that was really essential to be able to guide him as he went through middle school, guide him as he went through junior high, and guide him as he went to high school. So now I'm guiding him as he goes through trade school and getting an understanding of where his strengths and his weaknesses lie, so we can kind of work on bettering the strengths a little bit, but developing the weaknesses a lot more. So when it comes to a child's development, one of the things that I want to say, especially when you're talking about cultivating a connection with your child and building resilience, is being able to have those conversations and tell them about those real life experiences. I feel like there are times in life where we don't share our real life experience with our kids, so they can live a little bit vicariously through us. Now, we don't want them doing what we do, but we don't share the troubles and the stuff that we've been through, so they can have an understanding that they don't want to go down this route. Maybe they want to go and do something different. Seek another path, seek another road. And that's one of the things that I try to get my son to kind of steer away from, is all the decisions that I made. Having sex at an early age, having a kid at an early age, not knowing exactly what I wanted to do when I got out of high school, and deciding to go and chase money and women and not go and chase education in the future. So by me being there and being able to guide him and tell him some of the things that I went through, it kind of gave him an idea or a visual, like, okay, well, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to be like this. Or I even gave him a comparison one summer. I said, hey, look at what your mom does versus what I do. Which one would you rather take? And he was like, well, I'd rather have your lifestyle, because you don't have to work all day. You don't work 16 hours a day. You work, you leave, you had the weekends off, and you get to kind of go and do what you want to do. And I'm like, yeah, I worked hard to get in the position that I am in. It was not a short avenue. Like, it wasn't a short road. Like, it took a lot of time and effort to get there. And I want him to understand, like, there's no shortcuts in life. And for every shortcut you take, you're losing out on ability, you're losing out on wisdom, you're losing out on a little bit of everything that you need to know to make it to the next level. Because you took the shortcut and you thought the shortcut was going to get you to the top, and it didn't. It really just puts you in a worse off position, honestly. So when you're looking at developing your child, your experiences can be their experiences vicariously. Now, if you think your experiences are shameful or too hard to handle, then you gotta find an easier way so they won't fall into the same mistakes and they don't fall into the same pits. Now, I was talking to a friend, and I was telling them that most households without a father figure, have some of the worst child outcomes. And they proceeded to tell me about their father and their father's 5 kids, and who their father married. Their father married their mother, and finally got to their mother and got it right. And she was the only one that he was a father to. Now, that's all well and good, but as I had to ask her, was his father there? She said no. Even in some instances, her father wasn't there for her. So at the end of the day, she refuted that her child was going to become a statistic somewhere down the line, whether it's a baby mama, whether it's in jail, whether it's one ended up in a mental hospital, whether it's suicide or however the case is, that she refused that her child was going to become that, and that is fine. That I'm all for the positivity. The problem here is that we can't control the future. We can't control our child's outcome. You can do everything you can for your child, and they're still not going to go the straight and narrow. You can't feel bad or ashamed about that, especially if you did everything you can. There are bad parents with great children that have turned out phenomenal. There are great parents with bad children that have turned out horrible. Came from 2-parent households, had their father in their life, supported them, did everything they could for them, and they still decided to go down the wrong path. There's nothing you can do that can change the trajectory of where your child's going to go. Now, you can put them in a program, you can ride their back, you can do all of that. And that may work for some kids, but all kids aren't the same. You don't treat all 3 of your kids the same. You don't treat your 2 kids the same. You don't treat your 10 kids the same. It's different. So what works on one kid don't work on the next one. But even if you only got 1 kid, what worked when you were a kid may not work on this kid. So you have to understand that whatever happens on their path to get them wherever they need to be, and let's be honest, whether it's in jail, whether it's CEO, whether it's supervisor, manager, whether it's a line worker, whatever the case is, as long as you did your best and you did everything you could do within your power to do it, the rest is on that child. Whether they have multiple kids or whatever, the rest is on that child. I did everything I could up until 18, and I'm still providing guidance. If that guidance is not met with understanding, comprehension, and wisdom, and from going left, they go right, I did everything that I could. I can't ask any more than what I've already done. And if, God forbid, they end up in a situation that is out of their control and they wasn't thinking, or how the case is, I can only be there for them as a shoulder to cry on, a hand to hold, arms to hug, and an ear to listen. But other than that, I can't control their faith any more than I can control mine. And look, I'm M&G. I'll catch you on the next go around.